Recording right now. Okay, so Dr. Lathrop, thank you so much for being here to tell us all about research at Long School of Medicine for medical students.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having me, and excited to see all the interest in our school on what is, at least in San Antonio, a very beautiful fall afternoon at 5 p.m. Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Calloway. So I actually started at the Long School of Medicine before it was the Long School of Medicine in 2003. Yes, I started in 2003. So I've been at the institution quite a long time, and I've had a lot of different roles here. I was, as I said, a medical student. I did my internal medicine residency here and stayed on for fellowship. So I did my HEMONC fellowship after a chief year in medicine, and then joined the breast oncology group here at the Mays Cancer Center. So I really spend about a third of my time in clinic seeing women with breast cancer, about a third of my time doing research. My research focus is on translational medicine, so new therapeutics and breast cancer, and about a third of my time working with residents or students. And in that focus, I mainly try to help with the research initiatives underneath, partly the teaching side, education side of the medical school, but then also a foot in the research office. So really how I see myself helping you guys is being that resource between the curriculum, what you guys are doing clinically, and the research office. Our goal in the research office is really to provide an opportunity for anybody who wants to do research to do research. I don't feel strongly that you have to have a background in doing research in order to be successful. I think that's something that we can teach you here during medical school. Personally, I didn't do a lot of research in medical school. I was really interested in disparities and taking care of women and women's health, and did a lot of work in that, and didn't really start doing research in any significant way until I was a fellow. So I was a little late to the game. That was okay. I was still able to, become a doctor. So this is just one piece of a lot of opportunities you can have at our school. But if it's something that you're interested in, we want to be there to support you. So what does our office do? So we actually have a physical location in the medical school where you can come by and sit down and see us in person, which is nice after the pandemic. It's right in the, between the main lecture halls and another main building where you take a lot of your classes, and on the way to the cafeteria. So we have, we're very centrally located, easy to find. We try to have, traditional office hours where you guys can schedule to come by and talk to myself or to my colleague, Chris Valdez, who's a PhD who helps run the research office with me. We offer specific courses that you can take during your preclinical years. So during your preclinical years, we offer a course that's elective. It's not for credit, on how to do clinical research, just the real basics of how do you formulate a question, how do you write specific aims, how do you do a literature search. Some people don't have any experience with things like EndNote and keeping a reference library, and how do you do a proper literature search with PubMed and not Google Scholar, which I love Google Scholar, I use it all the time. But how do you actually do that? What are our librarian resources that are available to you? Which, by the way, I use when I do literature searches. I tap into our librarians here and make sure that my mesh terms are correct, and I'm doing a real proper search of the literature. That's actually a very difficult thing to do well. And then, how do you design your project with good statistical things in mind, getting the stats people involved early, not late in your research design. Is your design feasible? Can you do it here? And then once you decide all that, how do you find a mentor? How do you work your way through the IRB process? How do you collect data? Where do you put your data? How do we keep all that safe and do it in a proper way? How do you get access to the data that you need? And do we have that data for you? And then, how do you write up that project? How do you present it? Where do you present it? So, it's a lot that you can go through. So we have an actual course that's a semester-long course. It meets every other week for a couple hours. And the purpose of that course is to walk you guys through that process. The other course that we offer is new. It hasn't actually started yet. It will roll out this spring. And it's to help students who want to do basic science research, but maybe feel like they don't have the experience to do that. Okay. So if you were like me coming into med school, I got a bachelor's in art in biology. I went to a liberal arts school. Yes, I worked in some labs, but I certainly didn't know how to do PCR and that kind of stuff, right? So the lab can be really intimidating if you don't have any of that in your back pocket. And so the goal of this course is actually to bring in med students who are like, yeah, I think I could work in a basic science lab and learn some stuff. And honestly, most of our basic science labs are really translational. A lot of what they're doing has a clinical part to it, because we are, a medical school. So the students who want to take that course are actually going to be paired in labs with our graduate medical students. So we have a school of graduate medical sciences, people working on master's degrees, PhDs, and labs. So those are the people who actually be showing you the techniques. So it's kind of nice. They're kind of peers for you guys. And the goal is to just get you kind of the basic set of skills, meet some basic science folks, and so that you can potentially roll into one of those labs if that's something you're interested in. I know that there's lots of information available out there now to read and to consume about what you have to do to get into med school, and then what you have to do to get into residency, and what you have to do to get into fellowship. And I know that there's a lot of anxiety now about, well, what are we going to do? Because USMLE 1 is pass fail. And so now we have to do all this research, and we have to be ultra competitive. Well, you have to remember, you guys are all still in the same bucket. It's all the same people still. And I do think research can be an important part of distinguishing you, but I think you also have to do it because you want to do it. Otherwise, just like anything else in life, it just doesn't ring true. And so, our office is here to help. I think there's more interest recently, and we're expanding and trying to, figure out the best way to match everybody with mentors, but have meaningful experiences. I'm a big believer that quality is better than quantity. And I say that from a viewpoint of somebody who interviews, med students for internal medicine, and as the program director for our HEMONT fellowship. So I am in the process of choosing those residents and fellows, and that's something that I look for, is having really good quality relationships with your mentors, doing quality work, and really knowing detailed information about that work. As you move further from the preclinical years into the clinical years, we have electives that you can take in research. You can take up to 3 months of research electives. That is through our office, and it's possible to do that right at the end of your preclinical years before you roll out into your basic clerkship rotation, so that you can get some of that research rolling and potentially on your applications early on. And then we also have a distinction for in your diploma. So it's a distinction in research that's awarded to you when you graduate. There's multiple distinctions that we have at our medical school. Research is one of them. It's the requirements are a little lengthy, but basically you have to show a real commitment to research, both in time and in what you produce. And so for students who are interested in that, our office supports that as well. So I think that's a pretty basic overview of our office and what we offer to the students. We just want to be a supportive resource that you guys can reach out to. And I'm happy to take questions.
So we have some questions that were submitted, and I put one in the chat, the elective course that you're talking about at the beginning. Is that for first years and second years?
It is. And we suggest, and excuse me, the The medical school and in general leadership really feels like you guys should focus on medical school for the first 6 months. So it's going to be a big change. You know, a lot of people are moving here. Even if you're really used to, you know, studying a lot, med school's already, it's just like the next level up. And anatomy takes a lot of your time that first 6 months or that first semester. So we really encourage the students to just kind of hang tight and then start adding on things in that spring semester of their MS1 year. Once they know really what they want to do, how much time they think they have available, and also the number of hours goes down a little bit as far as the number of required lectures and required labs. And so it's a little bit easier. So you can take that in the fall or spring in either semester. But for MS1s, we encourage you to keep that first semester open just to get a feel for what it's like to be in medical school. And there's a lot of interest groups, a lot of things to get involved in. And so just take a little time to breathe and look around and see where you think you fit the best.
Somebody asks, how am I going to find a mentor?
That's a great question. And it's actually not a very easy thing to do. It's quite difficult. And so that's part of what our office is here to help you with. We've tried a few different things at the institution. We've, we in the past put a lot of effort into this online kind of matching system where faculty could put projects in, students could look at them. It didn't work as well as we really thought it would, despite, good efforts on both sides. And I think that the real issue is not matching you guys to individual projects, but matching you to mentors that you can continue to have a relationship with during your entire 4 years. That has a value beyond, I had an abstract accepted to a meeting. Yes, that's great, but having that mentor there is somebody that you can ask questions, career questions to. They can write you a letter for residency. If it's in a field you're really interested in, they can reach out to colleagues at other institutions if you're interested in training somewhere else for residency and advocate for you. So right now, what we're doing with the first year class is we are having them basically just fill out really simple forms for us about what they're interested in, what class year they are, how much time they have to commit, because that's a big part of it is also matching expectations. If you tell me, well, I can only work a couple hours a week, but I want a first author publication, I'm going to have to tell you that that's probably not going to happen, because it's not a realistic expectation of effort and output. So really trying to thoughtfully match people to mentors. But it takes a lot of time, but that's part of what our office is here to try to do for you guys.
That's great. There's a question also in the chat. Arta asks, I had a question about the clinical research course. Would students be learning these skills while taking on a specific research project, or is the course more focused on the concepts and skills?
Yeah, so the course is more concentrated on the skills and the concepts. If you have a project already, that would be great. You could certainly work through a project during this time period, but not everybody is going to take it. Like if you took it right at the beginning of your spring semester of your MS1 year, you may not have a project. That's okay.
Right.
It still shows you, okay, what are aims? How do I write an aim statement? And also things that you can go back to and reference later when you decide, okay, here's my project that my mentor gave me. But if you're like a lot of students who have an idea kind of kicking around in their head, well, it's a great opportunity for you to seek that out. Because sometimes I'll have a student say, hey, I have this idea. I'm like, great, go do a literature search. And they come back and they're like, oh, it's already been done. And I'm like, that's okay. What's the next step? Like, what's still not known about this, right? So a lot of these things, even when, you're on a research meeting with people who've been doing this their whole lives, these questions get changed and modified as more people jump on the project and give feedback. So it's always a good practice, even if what you initially start with isn't really what you end up at the end.
Mhm. And I'm assuming that if a person missed that course in the first or second year, that doesn't preclude them from jumping
Oh,
on
no.
projects later. Yeah.
No, and if the goal of that course is to give you, how my analogy is, when you guys start your preclinical years, you still have some clinical courses. So you have skill labs where you learn, which way you put your stethoscope, how to take blood pressure. We have students come to our clinic where they get to go in, see some patients, work on real specific things. And that way, when they hit the third year on the wards, yes, they don't know everything, obviously, but they kind of know how to put their coat on, how to walk around, how to look like they've learned something and have some confidence. That's the goal too with this, is to give you that basic skill set that when you come onto a research team and you're sitting in a research meeting and someone says, oh, well, we need to write you need to modify your aim statements, and why are you using this database? You should be using this one. And how are we going to figure out our patient population? And, what's an IRB, right? That you have some common language, common knowledge that you can then build on and feel more comfortable being an active member of that team. That's really the goal. And it's not for, you don't get graded on it. It's not for credit to your GPA. It does go in your transcript as an elective, but the goal more is to be there to just kind of start getting that language in your brain and start figuring it out.
That's great. That's great.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm actually in that elective, and it's really helpful. They don't assign you a project to answer that question, but I was not on a project before the elective started, and now I'm on several projects because I told them what I was interested in, and they kind of helped me figure out where I needed to go. I'm about to submit IRB approval for a project. I had no idea how to do that before taking this elective. It's very low stress. I show up once every other week. I learn something. I go home and work on my project. It's not it's really, really helpful. This is what I'm trying to say. It's been really positive for me. So.
Great.
Right. Thanks for sharing that. That's great.
And Claire, we're going to talk about other mentoring in just a second, because that came up aside from research. But does anybody else have other research?
Oh, I just saw, what is the medical research interest group like?
Oh,
good question too. It's being revamped like a lot of interest groups. It took a hard hit during COVID. If you can imagine, interest groups aren't as much fun on Teams as they are in person around a few boxes of pizza. So one thing I didn't mention is we have liaisons from every medical school class to the research office. So this year we actually chose 7 because we need a lot of stuff done. And so I needed more liaisons. So one of the things the research interest group is going to do is really facilitate a series of seminars. And we're hoping to do it in collaboration with other research groups. So if, for example, we're, the research group for women in medicine, we can talk about, issues for women entering medicine and barriers and things like that, which I've talked to the president of AMWA about. So we're trying to both have a research interest group where students can come together, shared resources, learn together, but also that we can be kind of a central hub for other groups that need help with research activities or research topics. So it's getting revamped. We're kind of excited. I'm hoping we'll do, we're trying for about 10 seminars this year.
That's great. Very good. And I think you all know this, and we mention it on interview day, but it's a nice way if you're learning about it or done it before and now you want to do it again, and you're making progress and loving what you're doing. It really does augment your application to residency. And it's one of the ways you distinguish yourselves in that residency process.
I see one more that just popped in about whether research is just within the School of Medicine, and the answer is no. So we definitely would encourage you, depending on your interest, to reach out to other schools. So we have allied health, we have a nursing school, dental school, we have a new public health school that's starting, which I think will be a big interest for a lot of medical students. A lot of our medical students already do research in public health. We have a very strong group that does disparities research at our institution. That's run by Dr. Amelie Ramirez. And I was just on a research meeting with her today. So I collaborate with her group a lot for disparities research for breast oncology. So I think it's a great way to kind of look across the whole institution and say, where's my best mentor? So definitely something that we can help you with as well.
Great, thank you. Anything else before we?
All right, well, good
hear from
luck.
others? Thank you so much.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. And if other questions come, we all say this over and over, it's not the last time to ask questions. So if something pops up that we need an answer from you, we will shoot you an email.
Sounds
Thank you,
great.
Dr.
Thank
Lathrop.
you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.